Today I'm going to attempt a conversion of a web camera into a telescope. Now the principle of this is very simple. I'm going to open this up, I'm going to remove the lens and any frills around the edges, and I'm going to glue it to a 35mm film canister, and this is the perfect size to put into the eyepiece of a telescope. Or at least it should be for mine. So that's the basic principle. So by the time this is finished, this will probably look something like this. And the great thing is, because this comes off, this top comes off, what I can do is glue it onto the front, and that way I can actually pull it off and on the canister if I want. So I can keep one canister with the bottom intact to protect the lens as a kind of cap, or I can actually cut the bottom off this, actually thinking about it, and make that into a kind of cap for the lens as well. So maybe I'll do that instead, and that way I'll have basically an astronomical webcam. Now the reason I'm doing this is because if you go on Amazon and that and have a look at the price of webcams for telescopes, they're generally VGA resolution, and they come in at about the £85 mark. This is a full HD camera. It's got reasonable low light performance as far as I understand, and it should be fine for bright objects such as the moon and planetary observation. If you want to take deep space photos, and you really need a CCD sensor rather than a CMOS, and even then this is going to be quite noisy, because again it's not designed really to work in very low light conditions. But hopefully the telescope's magnifying power and light amplification will well, I mean, if we can see it with our eyes, and in theory this should be able to see it as well. The one thing you need to be aware of is this is a light here, an LED light. This is blue. If you leave this uncovered, then what you're basically going to end up with is a blue sky, so you need to find something to cover that as well. I will probably just use a piece of gaffer tape, because I use gaffer tape for just about everything, to be honest. But if you leave that on and it turns on inside the thing, then you'll just end up with very blue images because the LED is on. But anyway, let's get started. For this, I'm going to be using that. I'm going to start off actually by cutting the bottom off this. It won't be a very neat job, but I can trim it down later. And I'm also looking through an iPad at the same time as I'm doing this, so try not to cut my fingers off at the same time. That should still have enough rigidity, especially when attached. And if I take the cap and just test it there, and this will be a lens cap. Not brilliant, but it'll do the job. Oops. It's because it's uneven, that's why. Or it might actually be smaller. Oh well, that was an interesting idea. It may not come out in theory. It's a bit too hard to put on. And it's possible, but as you can see, I'm having to use a screwdriver to really sort of poke the edges in. And that's not really very convenient. So the bottom of the cap must have been smaller than I anticipated, so never mind, that's a failed experiment, but then it's all about experimentation, isn't it? But next we're going to cut a circle out of this. Oops, sorry, off camera. You can see I'm just trying to very roughly cut around the edges. Not really using much finesse here. Need to make sure there's enough to actually stick it to the camera itself. Yeah, it should be okay. I don't think it has to be a perfect job, as long as there's more than enough space for the camera to see through it. I'm not particularly worried about pretty, I'm happy with functional. I will trim that a little bit off. Oh, there we go. If I cut with the circle, there we go. That's a lot neater, isn't it? Still a little bit left around the sides, but that should be fine. So there we go. So that's the main cap, and as you can see, what will basically happen is this will plug on and off. So what I need to do is get another one of these canisters, and that will make the lens cap then. And then this will be the main barrel. And as you can see, that's why the other end didn't go in, is because it's lipped all around here. So there we go, that's that done. Now for the interesting bit, which is how to take apart your camera. And I've never taken one of these apart before, so it'll be interesting to find out. I will either end up destroying this utterly, or making a fairly successful telescope webcam. We'll find out which. So, first thing to do is look for screws. There's nothing on the front. Oh, there's some tiny screws all the way in there, which you can't see here, but I should be able to feel them with my screwdriver. It's quite hard to see. Screwdriver might not actually be small enough. Ah, got one out. First screw. So this is what happens when you don't really have the right size screwdrivers. And oh, I think I actually undid that one already. So why isn't that coming out? Ah, there we go. Right. So now I've got to work out. Oh, there we go. This has just come off now. So that front cover's come off. We've got the microphone here. So I'm going to try and pull that out while preserving it. There we go. So that just pops off. I'm going to remove this as well. This is where the light emits. There we go. So that leaves us with this here. Oops. So we've got the microphone there. I'm going to leave that connected because you never know, I might want to do some sound recording. We've got some clear plastic. This is designed to protect the sensor, I presume. So what I need to do is get this board out. So there's a couple of screws on one side and the other. Ah, there we go. Now you will want to keep these screws, I should say. So I'm actually going to put them inside the canister for now. That's one, and then there's two here. I could actually remove all of this from the housing completely if I wanted to, but I'm going to maintain the housing because there we go. So the board now comes away. So you've got lots of plastic all over it. So I'm going to pull this plastic off now. There's not much point in that being there for us, I don't think. Need to keep these screws again. There's one still in the board. Doesn't want to come out. Actually, there we go. A bit fiddly, but there we go. So remember to keep the screws. Off like sellotape, okay. Okay, so it's just a bit of sticky tape really. A bit thicker than sticky tape, but you know what I mean. So now we've got a couple of screws in the back here, and what we're going to do is remove that lens from the front. So we expose the sensor, because our telescope is actually a lens itself. So we don't need another one on there. And these screws I don't think I'll need again. That screwdriver's a bit too big. Whoops. Try not to take off the surface mounted components like I am. I really need some smaller screwdrivers in this. Okay, I think I need to pop down to the hardware shop, see if we can find a smaller screwdriver. Okay, so I finally got that damn thing off. Now this screw was so stubborn I couldn't get it off at all. So as you can see, I managed to loosen this one on this side, and even that took the pressure of a steak knife being put into the side of it and then rotated with all that torque. So, you know, I just couldn't get enough grip on these little screwdrivers to actually turn it around properly, and I didn't have anything with a big enough handle. So I don't recommend you do that. I certainly don't recommend you do it then just pry off the corner, because as you can see, that's just, you know, I just ripped that off in the end. So I might be able to get it off now. It looks like what happened is it's actually gone into a strange angle. So normally these screws are straight into the board, but both of these went in at a strange angle. But they've obviously got drilled in by the machine. But nah, it's not coming off at all. There's just no way I'm getting that off. Even when I'm turning this, it just rotates in the board. So I'm hoping that won't impact the light collection on the sensor. I'm hoping it's going to come down in a funnel and hit the sensor directly. And that thing won't actually get in the way, but I'm not hopeful. So yeah, that was interesting. Now as you can see, there is a little LED on the board itself, and this needs to be covered up somehow. And now that I see how tiny it is, I'm not 100% quite sure how to do it. I suppose what I could do is just cover up the... No, because it's going to glow inside the device, and we don't have that thing around it anymore to cover it all off. So that's probably why people are getting blue in their versions of this. Oh, it's all jolly good fun, isn't it? Anyway, I managed to pry that off. Thinking what to do now. Right, I need to open up the front a bit, don't I? Because we don't have that focusing point. We now need to pull this bit off, basically. I want to get a couple of ridges off so we got the sensor completely exposed. I'm not going down just that small hole. I think these just push out. So what I ended up doing in the end was actually drilling through those bits, so it all comes off a lot easier now. And what I'll probably do is drill into that as well. Save me cutting through things. So I'm going to drill into accidentally if I need to. So that's widened it up a little bit more, isn't it? Get rid of all these loose bits on the inside. I wonder if I've voided the warranty. I'll probably plug this thing in now and it never work again. Well, it's not a fantastic job, but see if it actually works or not. You see like little bits of plastic coming off onto the sensor now. So now we have that, and what I'm going to do is reattach this back onto the board, onto the actual housing. Oh yes, this way up. So that just goes straight back on there. Do not touch that at all. That is the light sensor. If you get dust or fingerprints on it, it will basically ruin your image. So don't. That's too big. I really need a smaller set of screwdrivers. That's my biggest problem at the moment. So damn fiddly. Right. We need these screwdrivers. If they were magnetic, it would be a lot easier. Actually, I might cheat. That worked. Put a bit of glue on the side instead. Try for both sides now. There you go, isn't that a lot easier than faffing around with screws? And in regards to the problem of the LED, I'm going to put a bit of gaffer tape in there, as I said I would, and maybe glue that in as well. Oh, the end of that is hot. Funny that, isn't it, being a glue gun? So what I'm trying to do is get this bit of tape on there. Oops a daisy. Hopefully that will be enough to cast out the light. Now I've just got to reassemble the front. But before I do that, what I really need to do is mount the circle thing on here. That won't even go back in. Don't really care about the microphone, so we're just going to tuck it over there. We don't want it moving around too much, so you don't want it blocking the sensor. There we go. Make sure it all stays where it's supposed to. Never give me glue to play with. There we go. Get in there, you bugger. As this thing is going to spend its life in a tube, I don't think I need to worry about the microphone very much. Right. Check a message on my phone very quickly. Just Facebook. Okay. In theory, I should just be able to center it there. Basically that's what you've got now. Hopefully I've given it enough space. Will that wear up? Yes I have. Again, I'm not going to bother with screws or anything, I'll just put a bit of glue on it. Very lazy of me, but I never expect first attempt to work that well, to be honest. So there we go, that should save me having to fight with those piddly little screws again. I'm going to cover a bit off there as well. Try and even it out a bit. It's a little bit better. Okay. It'd be quite funny if I sent this back. Say, what is? It's not working anymore. Don't know what's wrong with it. It came to me like this, honest. So, actually, I might cut this whole thing off. It's not flat otherwise. You can see I'm very much making this up as I go along. Actually, I should always draw a knife away from yourself. Otherwise that's likely to happen. You might slice a finger off. It doesn't go in very well. It's very thick plastic. Basically brutalising this thing at this point. There we go. Well, there's definitely going to be enough light in there now, isn't there? Right. And now this thing sits flat on the front, which he wasn't doing before, which is what was giving me the issue. Whoops, or don't get the glue on the sensor down, that's not a very good idea. This looks horrible. There we go. I'm kind of guessing what the centre is. Okay, that should be pretty centerized, I think. If that's actually a word. Just getting a little bit of glue out of inside it. And now, in theory, wait for that to set for a moment. So the first thing I've got to do is actually plug this in and make sure it still works. Actually, I can do that with my laptop here. I may have just destroyed a web camera for no reason. My second job is always neater than my first. I'm kind of feeling my way through it, and as you can see, I'm making things up as I go along. Right. Okay, so here's the finished product. Not a very neat job if I say so myself, but not so terrible I suppose. It's just not very pretty. As you can see, I've got the software running on my laptop. If I stick my finger in there, you can see the colour changes. And there we have it. So now I need to plug it into my telescope and see if I can get anything at all. Hi, so here's the finished article. As you can see, the webcam software is running, and it's all glued in and all that kind of stuff. I put a bit of gaffer tape around there, stopping the extra light coming in around the edges. And all this does then is slip directly into the eyepiece tube. Absolutely perfect fit. And rotate that around. In fact, I'll bring that down. So now we've got the webcam all nicely snuggled in there. And on the screen we have that view over there. So you can see it's pointing directly out the window at those trees. And here I've just got the focusing knob. There you go. So the colour's off, but that can be corrected in video editing software afterwards. All I need to do is a hue shift into the green spectrum. So it's just a matter of getting fine control. And if I pick this up, you can see a bit more detail. Again, focus that in. See the individual branches there. And that is all the way over there. And that's how close I'm getting. You actually, you can actually make out the individual branches. Also, a couple of birds going across there. How cool is that? Now it remains to be seen how well this does on planetary objects and moons and things like that, but I think that's pretty damn good for 25 quid and the price of a film, which was about 4 quid. Of course, all I used was the canister, so if you have any of those, it will cost you nothing. So there you go, 25 quid telescope webcam. All I needed was a lot of glue and a bit of mangling of a webcam. So there we go. So I'll come back with a video next of it actually, looking into the depths of space.